and I'm going to record us. Got it. I'm going to hit record on the cloud. All right. And just to double check, I'm going to make sure we're live, and I'm going to go on my phone stuff just to make sure. Because, sometimes Facebook. Oh, we're live. Oh, we're
Yay! Yay, we did it.
Okay. Everybody that is here, please get in comments right now. Let us know you're here with us live. This is going to be a potent and super interactive discussion. And I'm going to bring Steph in a minute and introduce her. But I want to just shower everybody with love, gratitude, and celebration for being here live. So get in comments now. Hashtag live, I'm here. Or maybe you're on the replay. Hashtag replay. And share with us in comments where you're tuning in from. Where in the world? I'm in Mass. Just let us know you're here. And I'm so excited to have this discussion with Steph. Steph and I met a few years ago. We were in a mastermind together, and she was always someone I admired. And she really focuses on recovery from toxic, intimate relationships. So I'm so excited you're here, Steph. Can you just say hello and briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
I am super excited to be on with you, Tiff. I think this is going to be a great conversation. The energy, the flow, and I'm excited to be able to share what I've learned with your audience. But my name is Stephanie McPhail. And like you said, I specialize in healing from toxic relationships to really rediscover who you are and create your best life. No matter whether you're single, you're in a relationship, we really want to make sure that you create that life, because making the world a better place is about each one of us stepping into our power. And I've been doing this for a few years. I used to be really good at choosing really shitty partners and then trying everything in my power to make it work. So I understand the mindset of the hard driving professional woman who knows how to be successful, just not when it comes to relationships. So I've got some good nuggets. Definitely get some notes out, because we're going to have a great conversation.
Yeah. Oh, Steph, and I know what it's like too, to pick really shitty partners and want to fix it and make it perfect. And it's like, oh, it's not like your business project, Tip. You can't do that. Oh.
We see potential, which makes us really good in business and our careers, but it's not so great when it comes to relationships. You don't date potential, you date actually the person. You don't get to decide what they become. That's up to them.
Right. Oh my goodness. No, that's so good. Okay. Well, I've got my pen. Who's pen and paper here? I'm just curious. And let me just get the comments up. I see them coming in. And
pen and paper all the way. I like to write my notes. That is still my thing as well.
Me too. I can't get away from it. So my comments, I see them coming in, y'all. Let me get to it in a minute. And so, Steph, can you just shed some light on that specifically? So, like, why do high achieving women tend to be attracted to, or like, what draws us to these like vampire beings? Like, what is that?
I like that, vampire beings. So there really is. So my book, Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt, is all about my story of overcoming toxic relationships. And the reason why I chose that title is because for many of us, if we grow up in households or we grow up in an environment where love to us is a struggle, you have to fight for it, it is frustration and all of these kind of negative emotions. And I always laugh to myself, because I'm like, why did I want that so bad? Like, to me, love was this like really hard thing, and I really wanted it. I really wanted the relationship. But if that's what you grow up believing love is, then no matter what your experience is with the rest of your life, where we try to overdo it in some ways in the rest of our life, when it comes to relationships, our barometer for what's possible is set to toxic, stressful, uncomfortable. So when we meet that, we're like, ooh, this is love. Okay, this is great. And then we do everything we can to try to fight for it, fix it, explain, prove ourselves, all of those things. Where if we grew up in healthy and knew that love should be easygoing and inspiring, and my husband David actually calls it the green smoothie love versus the crack cocaine love.
Love that.
Like, you want the smooth, easygoing, healthy one that inspires you. But if you grew up with the healthy one, you'd see all the toxic stuff and you'd be like, oh, this is gross, I don't want that. But because we didn't, we see the toxic stuff and we are attracted to that. That's what we know. So the whole idea is changing our barometer so that we no longer search out that toxicity. And now we actually are like I said, grossed out by the toxicity. And now we're attracted to the people that elevate us, that make us feel good, that make us feel even better than what we already are.
Ooh, that's good. And Steph, can I just unpack this one level deeper? And
Sure.
y'all, let me know you understood what Steph just said. That was potent for me and so many nuggets for myself personally. So when we grow up in family dynamics where we almost have to like fight for our love, or like we have to deserve mommy and daddy to be proud, we almost are attracted or comfortable with the discomfort because that's all we know.
Mhm.
And so I just want to take it a step further, is like this idea we have to fight or prove ourselves for love, like that comes into business. Like I find so often it's intertwined that receiving a client that does the work that we enjoy working with, that has like synchronized energy. If we fight for love in our family dynamic, it's like we feel we have to fight to get a client too. And I'm just curious, I don't know if you have an answer for that, Steph, but like, is that back to like the comfortability that all we know is to fight and to earn it? You think so?
Well, but also too, if you're told, if you believe relationships are hard, or if you believe that you have to work really hard, it's like, the people, if you are overdoing it in work, so you're working 14 hours a day, and that's what you have to do to be successful. I mean, who can live like that? That's a toxic work environment. You cannot continue, you cannot function at your best if you're working these crazy hours. But again, if that's what you believe you need to do in order to be successful, that's what you do. When it comes to the romantic relationships, if you believe that relationships are hard, then you find hard and you're like, okay, cool, this is what I have to do. I have to fight for it. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we also find, because there might be some people that are like, well, yeah, but I grew up in this really perfect, amazing family and I still attracted toxic people. I see the other end of the spectrum where some people didn't get the tools that they needed to differentiate. And they went automatically into trusting the person that they were dating and just believing everything that they said because they grew up in this family of like easiness. So, it's like you want to be kind of somewhere in the middle and be able to really have that healthy communication, because again, it goes for all of this. We see clients come to us with these toxic relationships, and we literally just have a client right now who realized after she ended the relationship, oh my gosh, my job is super toxic. And she was coming late to meetings with us because she was like, I had a call at 9 o'clock at night that I had to deal with something as an emergency. And it's like every night was like that. So she just is starting her new job next week and she's so excited about it. So it translates. It goes from one to the other. If you've got toxic business, you could have toxic friendships, toxic romantic relationships. It all intertwines.
Oh, that is so good, Steph. And I love that you're mending a lot of wounds, right? Like this whole idea of toxic relationships, or like for me, I say vampire beings, because like if it takes away from me and it takes from my bigness, I know I just can't be there. But that's taken me years in working with professionals just like you, Steph, to know and own my worth. So thank you for what you do, because I personally I did it for so long, and it's literally my whole life has changed from work, friendship, intimacy, and even my relationship with myself. So really just a testimonial to your work. It's beautiful. And my second tier question to that stuff is like, what patterns should we all be aware of? Like when, like, let's say we're in that honeymoon stage of a new job or even a new partnership, and it's going so good. Like, what are those red flags, Steph, or what are those patterns to look for?
Well, I think even before we look at that, I think that we need to look at what kind of healing have we done ourselves? And so like, what work have we done in between? And is there always stuff to learn? Yeah, I still learn stuff to this day. And I think I always will. I'll always want people to expand my knowledge. But, I think that when you start to understand your worth, and when you start to have these people come in to your safe space, and you call them the vampires, I call them the life suckers. It's the same thing. We need to be tuned in to who we are and what our energy levels are, because if we're noticing that people are sucking our life away, they're sucking our energy away, those are people we don't want to spend a lot of time with, whether it's friendships, jobs, romantic relationships, all of those things. If you are over giving to the point, and this is what I see all the time, people over give and they're like, oh, those idiots, they took from me, they kept taking from me. And I'm like, but they can't keep taking if you don't keep giving. At some point, you got to take responsibility for your own behavior, your own choices. You can't be a people pleaser. If you have those healthy boundaries, you're not going to people please until you are dead inside. You're going to start seeing, like, it's nice to be helpful and supportive of other people, but if you're checking in with your energy and you're like, this doesn't feel good, I can't continue to give, I need to go within and focus on self and actually do that. That's awesome. But a lot of us, we keep giving till we're empty, and then we're mad at the world for not noticing that we are empty and easing up on us. So we've got to learn those. And I didn't learn what a boundary was till I was 34.
Right?
I didn't know you could have boundaries, like people, you could say no, and people should, like, it's like all of those things was like mind blowing to me, is that you could actually give boundaries. And so, and also you'll find that the people that you are giving boundaries to, that are ones that are trying to poke through them, like the velociraptor in Jurassic Park, they're trying to see where those boundaries they can go through. Those are the people that aren't your people. So you'll see the ones that are trying to manipulate, that are trying to take advantage of you, that are not, like the clients that are like, trying to get as much free stuff and don't want to actually pay you for your services, and it's like they don't respect what you're doing. So, and again, if you have a healthy boundary, then that person knows they're not going to let me get away with this. And that actually helps you and the client, because sometimes they need to be reminded that it's worth it. So, again, boundaries are important for everybody. So as you heal yourself and get to know who you are, it starts to be much easier to differentiate the life suckers versus the people that want the best for you, that want to support you, that want to inspire you.
Yeah. And being able to differentiate, like, what's going to give, what's going to support me in my bigness and my worthiness, and what's going to take and deplete me. And I think, or I know, Steph, that's a really great example of healthy boundaries or loving boundaries. Like, you can have clients that want the most of their experience with you, but you can also say, hey, this is how I work. These are my office hours.
Yep.
These are call times. And anything after that is considered an absolute emergency. And unless it's an emergency, you're not able to jump in my email or, whatever point of communication system you're using. And I think that's really important for our partners too. Like, tell me if I'm overhearing this or making this up in my own, but like, I've seen men in my own life when I'm dating, and also with my friends, is like this idea that I'm readily available. Like, if I don't pick up your text at noon on a Tuesday, I must be cheating on you. And it's like, no, I'm on a live chat. Like, I'm working. And it's almost like this idea that when we get into intimate partnerships, clients or partnerships intimately, is that we're just readily available.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to the audience here, Steph, and even me? Like, I need to hear this. Like, how can we set loving and healthy boundaries around, like, being women in business? Like, we're not readily available to answer your call, John or Jim or, whomever. Like, how do we do that, Steph?
Well, one of the things that I think is really important is that, like, for example, we did a retreat, and my husband and I did the retreat together in Arizona for a week. It was great. And then I stayed and hung out with a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a while, who lived like 30 minutes away from the retreat center. While I was on this retreat, I think, or like my own retreat with my friend, I think my husband checked in like once a day, and it was just the kids wanted to say hi to me and whatever. But past relationships, it would have been 30 times. Why haven't you messaged me? You're cheating on me, blah, blah, blah. And but the funny thing is that there was a certain level of respect and understanding that doesn't even necessarily have to be said. I never said to him, you shouldn't call me, I'm hanging out with my friend. He was like, she's hanging out with her friend, I should allow her to have her fun time without having to check in on her all the time. If she needs me, she'll reach out. I'll take care of the things with the kids. I will do all those things. She doesn't need to be managing the household when she's away. He was able to figure all that stuff out on his own. With my clients, they know one of my phrases is, in order to rejuvenate, or in order to accelerate, you have to rejuvenate. You need that time to relax. So the weekends, I still recommend for clients, if they're having trouble, still post in the group, the paid group, but I will probably not quickly answer. Like, understand that on the weekends, that's my family time. And I don't necessarily say that, but they see like the pictures of me with the kids, and so they don't really post as much. They don't really go to that place. They just understand what I'm teaching. I live what I teach. So when I say to people, you've got to take time, you've got to have your self-care routine, you've got to take care of yourself first, they understand that I do that as well. So I think that as you shift, people start to understand that it's a boundary in your own head, but you don't have to go around telling people, don't call me on Tuesdays. They just know, because they know that you're busy and you have a business, and that's what you're probably working, and they shouldn't bother you unless there's an emergency.
Okay, and creating boundaries and living by them rather than speaking by them. That's good. And y'all go in comments right now and put some hot emojis, because I just want to pause there stuff, because I think this is so important. We must eat our own cooking. We must take our own medicine, right? If we're going to be integrity driven, heartfelt, soulful women in business and have fulfilling, intimate partnerships with our spouses and in our marriage, we have to align our values with the things we do and the things we say. So y'all put some fire emojis, and I do have my comment. Okay, hi, Erica's here, Kim's here, hey, Monica. Okay, y'all, like, let me know in comments. I want to pause there before we dive into this deeper. I want to ensure that everyone heard what Stephanie just said about staying congruent with the things you believe in, your values and your boundaries, and living them. And if there's any questions, I will pull up chat and have Stephanie answer them for us, because I think that's so important, especially when it comes to intimacy. So thank you for that, Steph.
And I think, and it's important, and I love what you're saying, because when, as a business owner, people can tell really quickly if you're not being authentic.
Boom.
And so, do the things that, when you're in your business and you're living authentically, you're speaking authentically, people can feel that. When I have people that reach out to me, and I literally had this morning where they're like, I felt like you were psychic and you were just talking directly to me. And I was like, yeah, because I'm not playing. Like, I literally understand what you're dealing with. Not only have I experienced it, this is what I see all the time with clients as they're moving through this process of healing. So I specifically understand. Now, and you and I have talked about this. If somebody comes to me and they're like, I'm going through a terrible divorce and I don't know what to do with my children, that wouldn't be authentic for me to answer, because that's not me. I didn't have children with my toxic ex. So I don't know what that's like. I can imagine, and it sounds like that would, I don't even want to think about how awful that is for any of you who are dealing with children through a divorce. That's awful, but I didn't have that experience. So I think that in even being honest and saying, hey, I can tell you what I've learned through clients and my experience of working with people, but I haven't had direct experience with that, but I can connect you with someone who does. And don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to make those kinds of connections either. And I'll take it a step further, even when it comes to relationships, your romantic relationships, sometimes we have to say, like, learning how to apologize, learning how to say, I made a mistake, and realizing that there are things, we're not perfect either. We shouldn't expect our partner to be perfect all the time, but to keep being open, that healthy communication, listening to each other and being real, like, hey, I just was in a crappy mood and I bit your head off. I am so sorry. I didn't realize it at the time. I need you to know that I apologize. And I'll tell you that is way easier in a healthy relationship. When I was in my toxic relationships, I was always afraid to apologize because I was afraid it would be used against me. But now that I'm healthy, I can be like, okay, so this is what happened. This is what I was feeling. And he'll be like, okay, well, this is how I felt. And we talk about it. And then it's over. It's not something that's going to be thrown back in my face for years afterwards. So authenticity, the people that are going to be attracted to that authentic you is going to be far greater than you trying to be everything for everybody in all areas of your life.
Steph, I'm gonna run through the freaking ceiling because you're talking my language, like, right? Like, we don't have to try so hard to people please or be something we're not when we're just fully aligned and congruent in our lives. So thank you for that. And a question did come in, and Jen, I'm gonna have Stephanie answer your question in just 1 second. But I wanted to point out too, like, right, making an amends when we do something wrong. And this is for all walks of life, not just our intimate partners, but you know, hey, I did act like a jerk earlier. I'm hoping you can forgive and accept that it was just out of character for me. Really appreciate your support. And somebody that's not toxic isn't going to like dig you into the dirt anymore. And I've dealt with this like both client and intimately. It's like, yeah, well, you're always like that. And rawr. But a healthy relationship is like, hey, I appreciate you coming forth in a good way and realizing you acted like a turd earlier. I forgive you. And it's like, yes, now we can move forward. But those toxic people will just like, you know, I see like my foot, like a cigarette in the dirt, like you want to just put me down more, but healthy. It's like, thank you for realizing you made a mistake and I forgive you.
Then you can resolve it. You know, again, with toxic, there's no resolving of anything. It's just blaming and shaming. There's no resolution.
I love that. And so segueing, because we only have a few minutes, Steph, and I want to, Jen, I'm going to have Stephanie answer your question because I'd also like to know this too. Ooh, this one's good. Are you ready for this stuff? This is from the audience.
Love it.
Can you mend an unhealthy relationship that feels rocky? Can you make it that green smoothie? Like, is there any hope?
So, okay, so I will say this. If it is both partners, both people, so whatever relationship that it is, I don't know if it's romantic, family, whatever, if both people are interested in doing whatever it takes to try to work things out, there is a chance. Not 100%, but there is a chance. The problem comes in is that I see women in these toxic marriages that are trying everything they can to make the relationship work. And guess what their partner is doing? The same shit they were doing before. That's not going to work at all. So have I had in my years of doing this, I had one client once where her husband was an alcoholic and went to AA meetings, and she was angry still because of the alcoholism and how it had affected his family or the entire family. She started to work with us. She was actually coming to us saying, I'm getting a divorce, you know, whatever. And as she started healing herself and dealing with the loss of her brother passing away, some sexual abuse she'd experienced, all of these other things, she realized that she had not been communicating at all with her husband. And out of the hundreds and probably thousands at this point, clients that I've helped, one of them, their marriage is now happier than it's ever been. But they both were committed to trying to figure it out. So in other words, I would say most of the time that doesn't work. I will say if it's an environment, like let's say like a little kind of on the side thing, if this is a family member, you know, there are people in my life that might not be the healthiest that I still continue to have relationships with because I want to continue that relationship. I also keep it a little bit more at arm's distance, and I don't tend to try to spend extra time. Like it's more on my terms, the way when I'm done with it, I remove myself. If it gets to be too heated, I remove myself as well. So in those kinds of, but I don't have a lot of those. Those are people that for me are they are important to me that I do not want to end those relationships. And that's your decision on if you want to do something like that. But I am very particular with how I approach those relationships. But I will say that that's very few and far between because I want my circle to be filled with inspiring, supportive, strong people that are there that have my best interest at heart that I don't have to argue with and prove myself with.
Oh, I love that. That you don't have to prove yourself or argue with. And I totally identify, and you know, I've shared this with you. This isn't about me, but like, yeah, I have family members I love dearly that I do have to do a quarterly breakfast.
Yeah.
It has to be a quarterly breakfast on my terms, and I'm safe to go if it gets out of hand. Because I want that relationship, but I don't want it in my house. I don't want it at my yoga studio. I don't want it here in my business. So I loving boundaries of like, yeah, quarterly we'll go grab breakfast, or, we'll do this at a playground. We'll do something where it's free to go and safe. So thank you for that. And y'all, like, drop some love in the comments. We are gonna descend from our conversation, and just let us know how appreciative you are for Stephanie being here. She is one busy, integrity, heartfelt woman who has hundreds of clients she's servicing right now. So the fact that she was here with us today means the world to me. And I would just love if you guys can show her some love. And Steph, before we leave, if there's anyone in the audience suffering in silence, if you will, or that's looking to take it deeper with you, I know you have that amazing podcast you launched. We can follow you on social. Is it okay if I drop those after, or do you want to come in comments and you'll drop your podcast, your links to follow you?
Sure.
And would it be okay if I announced your little special agreement with your Calendly booking? Can I do that? Okay.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Y'all write this down. So Stephanie is doing something really special this week only, for exclusive to my audience only. She's gonna host 15-minute clarity calls for free. This isn't a sales call. This isn't work with Steph guarantee. She's hosting a 15-minute call with anyone that's looking to go deeper, to gain some more understanding if they're in, or if you're in a toxic relationship. That can be with a family member, an intimate partner. It could be clients too. Steph is going to host specifically for my audience only these 15-minute clarity calls. So I'm going to drop that in the comments after. And Steph, what should we do? Hashtag Tiff sent me. Hashtag Tiff sent me.
Hashtag unicorn.
Hashtag unicorn.
I like that.
Okay. If you book a call with her, it in her ask questions section, just put hashtag unicorn and she'll know.
And that way I know, because I will specifically get on the call. If not, it could be somebody else. So I want to make sure that I'm able to give you that time and space to be able to answer questions and just help guide you. Sometimes we just need that little clarity and then we can just go with it. So, feel free.
Awesome. So thank you for that, Steph. And if any of you folks have a quick question, Steph, is there anything you want to leave us with before we let you go? Is there anything on your mind you want to?
So here's what I want to say. No matter how long you've experienced toxic love, toxic relationships, toxicity in your life, I don't care what you've experienced, for how long you've experienced, it is possible for you right now to decide that you're going to create something different. Whatever you've done before, if it hasn't worked, that doesn't mean that is now. It is possible for you to create it. Sometimes we just need the right support. So I want you to look at me and realize I did not think that healthy relationships were for someone like me. And here I am, married to my best friend, business partner, the father of my beautiful babies. And I get to live that life every day. But I had to make the conscious decision to stop what I was doing, go through the pain, because it's painful, heal and work and figure things out on me without focusing on other people, focusing on me. And then I was able to create this beautiful life. It is possible for you too, no matter how long it's been.
My drop. I have nothing to say. Oh, thank you. That spoke to me too, right? Like, these patterns can change if we're willing to change and to work ourselves. So thank you for that beautiful medicine and that healing. We will get in comments in a minute, y'all. Just give me a minute. I'm going to wrap up and end the series here live. And Steph, thank you so much for being here. It's been such an honor, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye, everybody.